Hello and welcome to Series 8 of the International Soccer Podcast. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Connor. And today we will be having a look at the squad for the Algeria national team for the upcoming African Cup of Nations.
Right, so we've kind of organized the players into positions, and we're kind of going to go through each position and see how likely each player is to make the final squad. Anything to add before we begin, Connor?
No, we'll be looking at kind of a list of prospective players that we think are in the picture, and we'll discuss, like Kevin said, how likely we think they are to make it.
Yeah, and there's always a couple of players who seem to kind of come in out of the blue, so we're prepared for that. But we probably won't have much biographical information on those guys. But anyway, let's begin with the manager, Jamel Belmadi. Do you want to introduce us to him, Connor?
Sure. So Belmadi is a former Algeria international who's now the manager of the national team. He's been manager of the Algeria national team since 2018. And of course, with Algeria winning the most recent African Nations Cup in 2019, he already has one AFCON title under his belt.
Yeah, he's actually pretty young there at 45 years old. And he managed Qatar in the 2015 Asian Cup, but they actually lost all three games there. So, as you say, he kind of earned credibility in 2019 with Algeria. He himself played in the 2004 African Cup and possibly some tournaments before that, because he was the captain of the team. So I guess he was there for more than the one tournament. All right. Well, he's obviously a definite because they haven't changed their manager in the lead up. And I should actually say that we're kind of dividing players into a few categories here. One is definite. I wonder if we should change the word to confident. We're confident that they'll make the team. The next one is likely, and then possible but not likely. And then we have a couple of categories for players who probably won't show up, which would be seems to be off the team, is retired, and is injured. So we'll kind of be talking in those categories. So the first one is Raze Bali, the goalkeeper, and tell us about him, Connor.
So yeah, their goalie Race Mboli, he has 84 caps. He's 35 years old now and has been with the team since 2010. So he's been around the picture for a long time. Currently, he plays with Etifak in Saudi Arabia. That's his club team. But he's actually played in a number of countries throughout his long career, including France, Turkey, the United States, Bulgaria, Russia, Japan, Greece, and even Scotland. So he's been around the block.
For sure. Yeah, he actually, as you said, since 2010, he was on the 2010 World Cup squad, but he wasn't the starting keeper until he was. Basically, he replaced Fauzi Chauchi after game one. And that was because Slovenia had scored on a goalkeeping error and won the game 1-0. And after that, from then on, he was the starting keeper for every tournament except 2017, where he had a bit of an injury. And he won the Golden Gloves Award in the most recent cup in 2019. Anything to add there?
No, even at 35, we certainly expect him to be involved again and likely in the starter position. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely. I would definitely call him a definite. He is. He's 35. So that's not too old for a goalkeeper, and he's played 8 of their 11 games in 2021. So still very much the starting keeper, I would say. The next one is Alexander Ukija. And he's born in France, actually just as Raze and Boli was. A lot of the Algerian players were born in France. Tell us a little about him, Connor.
Yeah, he's 33 years old, so not much younger. But he only has 6 caps to his name. He's only been with the team since 2019. He currently plays with Metz in France and previously played with Strasbourg and Lille. So he's played actually all his career in France except for one loan spell. So yeah, an older keeper, but certainly not the same number of caps or games as Mboli has.
Yeah, I'm surprised at his age, actually, because as you say, he started in 2019 and was the backup keeper in the 2019 Cup. But I guess that would put him at 31 years old when he earned his first cap. All right, but we have him as a definite here because he's played 3 of their 11 games in 2021 and he was on the bench for 7 others. So only one of their 11 games was he not selected for.
Yeah,
and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and he came into the squad when Mboli wasn't playing. So they've shared the starting goalie in 2021.
Yeah, so he seems to be the second string keeper. I should say that when I'm talking about these games, I'm not including the Arab Cup, which was played in December, because it's some teams sent their best and some didn't, and I just thought it would kind of confuse things to add that data. Okay, the third one we'll talk about is Azzedine Duka. Actually, surprisingly, there's only three goalkeepers that seem to have been used. So we have him as a possible because he played none of their 11 games and he was only on the bench for 3. But if he's the only one available, they have to bring 3 keepers, so it might be him. Let's talk about him a bit.
Yeah, like Mboli, he's also 35 years old, but with Mboli being the starter for so much of his career, Duke has been limited to just 15 caps, even though he's been with the setup since 2011. And he currently is one of the players playing his domestic football in Algeria.
Yeah, right. And he's actually been with the team quite a bit longer than Ukija above. He was the backup keeper all the way from 2013. But he did miss a couple of cups. He missed the 2014 World Cup and the 2017 African Cup. But he was on the 2019 African Cup. So, yeah, definitely a possibility here. Anyway, so those are the candidates, and I really wish we had some way to kind of confirm whether they're on the team or not.
Yeah, be great if we had someone who could kind of talk us through that.
Yes, it would.
And in fact, I know someone who might be able to do that.
Oh, great!
So with that, I'd like to welcome Kiera to the podcast.
Oh, all right.
And she should be here momentarily and can hopefully tell us out of these candidates that we some we're more certain about, some we're less certain about. Can hopefully tell us who is on the squad.
Kiera. Oh, well, hey, nice. Great to have you.
Nice to see you both. Nice to be here.
All right. Well, you're the expert on these things. Are you able to tell us which of these goalkeepers made it? Is it all 3, I'm guessing?
Well, there are 3 goalkeepers, but not the 3 that you have on your list there.
Ooh.
So Race Mboli is on the squad, as is Alexander Ukija. But the third is Mustafa Zekba.
Ooh. Kind of coming out of the blue there.
Yeah, not on the team.
I'm just checking to see if I have him in my files, and I do, because he's been with the team before. Let's see. His first and only cap was in December 2018. And then he was an unused substitute in March 2019, and he wasn't selected for the 2019 African Cup. So yeah, he'd been around, but he had seemed to be off the team there. So yeah, that's an interesting one, Connor. What do you make of that?
Yeah, interesting to have someone kind of newer brought in, but it seems likely that only the third string goalie position is up for grabs. It seems just based on the experience that Mboli and Ukija will be 1 and 2. So probably unlikely he'll see some action, but might be a good experience for him nonetheless.
Yeah, he is actually 31 years old. So kind of like Ukija there. He came in late to the team. But anyway, we only had Duka as a possibility. So I guess for whatever reason, he wasn't chosen. Should we move on to central defenders?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I have Abdelkader Bedrain. And the reason, for those watching on YouTube, the reason his name is in kind of light gray is because he's never played an international tournament. That's what that indicates. Tell us a little bit about him.
So he's relatively new to the squad. He's been there since 2017, but only has 10 caps. He did start his career playing domestically in Algeria, but currently plays with Esperance in Tunisia. Actually one of the bigger teams in Tunisia.
Yeah, I should have maybe moved him down the list, but we do have him as a definite because he played 6 of their 11 games and was on the bench for 5 others. But we should have, I should have maybe introduced a couple of bigger names first. And a very big name here is Asa Mandy. So I'll put him above on the list there because he's actually the captain, or at least he has been the captain of the team. I think it's Riyad Mahrez now.
Yeah, as a captain or former captain, you'd certainly expect him to be involved. He has 68 caps, all since 2014. So a lot of caps in a relatively short period of time. He's 30 years old and he currently plays with Villarreal in Spain, so a pretty big club in Europe. Formerly, he spent 5 years at Real Betis in Spain, so another top-flight La Liga club.
Yeah, he's another player who's born in France, and his first tournament was the 2014 World Cup, and he's been at all of the tournaments since, almost always as a starter. And in the lead-up here, he played 9 of their 11 games, so I would call that a definite. How about you?
Yeah, I would agree. We'll certainly expect to see him there.
Okay, let's take a look at Jamal Ben Lamry. Take us through him, Connor.
Sorry, he's a little bit older. He's 32 years of age and has fewer caps than Mandy, just 26. But he's been with the squad for the last 4 years, since 2018. He did have a spell in France with Lyon, but currently plays for Qatar Soccer Club in Qatar.
Right, that was a pretty short spell with Lyon, even though he's a fairly big name for Algeria. He played 9 of their 11 games, and the 2 he didn't play, he was injured. I'm pretty sure he's recovered now, but he kind of came in 2019 and as a starter. So he kind of made his way onto the team pretty quickly, even though he came a bit late. So we have him as a definite there.
Yeah, and should be noted, he started all games in the previous African Cup, except for one group stage game where Algeria fielded a B team. So pretty regular in the last tournament.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, we have a couple of names that we won't go into as much detail. Maybe a little bit on Ahmed Tuba, because we have him as a likely. What do you say?
Yeah, he's only 2 caps, so he's fairly new to the squad. He plays in the Netherlands. But his first appearance was on the bench in March 2021. But he has been on the bench kind of consistently for the team through most of the previous year.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's right. So he must have played the first game in March, and he only played twice, but he's been on the bench. Right. So I have him down as a likely just because he's been there for all the games. The next one is Ayub Abdelawi. And we have him as a possible because he played 3 of their games in 2021 and was on the bench for 2, but he wasn't selected for 6 of them. So he's a possibility. Do you want to just briefly introduce him as one of the possible candidates?
Yeah, he plays with Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia. We saw one other player who plays there as well. Relatively new to the team, just 9 caps. But he has been involved in about half their games in 2021.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, his first cap was in 2017, so he's gotten 9 caps over 4 years. So, you know, doesn't seem to be a first choice for them. Mehdi Tarat is the next possible candidate. He played only the first of their 11 games in 2021 and was injured for 3 games. But he was on the bench for the last 2, so that kind of makes him a candidate here.
Right, and he's currently with Al Gharafa in Qatar. He did have a spell in France with a couple of different clubs, but previous to playing in Qatar, he played in Saudi Arabia. So he's been kind of in the Middle East since 2019.
Right. Okay. And then our last kind of possible candidate is another guy who hasn't played the tournament, a tournament yet. He played his first and only cap in October 2020 and didn't play any of their 11 games in 2021, but he was on the bench for 2 games. Actually, maybe we should move him down to possible but not likely there.
Yeah, and he's with Bordeaux in France, and has been for the past couple of years. But he's a younger player. You know, he's only 24 years of age, so
yeah,
you know, he's got a lot of time ahead of him.
Right, just 1 cap. Okay, well, I'll just mention the name of the next one is Elias Hassan. We're not really going to introduce him because he hasn't played for the team since October 2019. And finally, we'll take a look at Rafiq Khalish. I'm not sure how much time we should spend introducing him because the main point here is that he's retired. Do you want to just kind of tell us a little bit about him? Because I think he's a bit of a loss here.
Yeah, he was a former captain of the team. He's 35 years old. So, you know, not the oldest player. He's played a lot of his career in Portugal, including a spell with Benfica. And he had a spell with Fulham in England, but that was in 2010 to 2012.
Yeah, so he was on the team from 2010 to 2015, a fairly steady presence. He wasn't in the 2017 African Cup, but perhaps surprisingly came back for the 2019 version, although he only appeared in that B game. So a bit of a backup player, and he is off the team now. So we have a lot of candidates there, 3 definite, 3 possible. 2 kind of unlikely, and then a retired player who, of course, won't be playing. Kiara, tell us.
Well, there are 5 central defenders who have been selected. So your definites were spot on. Asa Mandy is on the team, as well as Abdelkader Bedrain and Jamel Bednari are all
there.
Selected.
Okay, well, who are the other 2?
So Mehdi Tarat is also there. And then we have a surprise. There is one name who is not on your list who has been selected. And this is Mohammed Amin Tugai is the 5th. So a bit of a surprise one there.
There we go. All right. Well, we don't actually know much about him, so we can't really introduce him. but I would imagine with some of the big names here that he'll be more of a backup player. Do you think, Connor?
Yeah, especially when we have three of our certain players on the team. You know, we'd expect them not only to be more certain, but to be more likely to play in the starting lineup.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to left backs, and we have one likely, and because he's the top player, it might move up to confident, and then two possible, and then one kind of not likely. So the one who is we coded as likely is Rami Bensabani, and he played 7 of their games in 2021 and was injured for 2 of those. On the bench and not selected for them. He also scored one of their 19 goals in qualifying.
Yeah, the 26-year-old plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany. So actually quite a top club in Germany, and he's been with them since 2019. Prior to that, he was with Rennes in France for a couple of seasons.
Right, and he was a starter in 2017 and 2019. I'm kind of tempted to move him up to the confident level, the definite level. What do you think, Connor?
I think given his age and given his experience playing in those previous cups and playing at a pretty top club, I think it's pretty certain that we'll see him there.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Naufel Kasef. I'm not really sure about my pronunciations here, so please forgive me. If there are any Algerians listening, you're probably slapping your head at the way we're saying their names. Well, we're trying our best. He had his first cap in March too, and he played just 2 of their remaining 11 games in 2021. Somehow he was ineligible for 3 of those games. They were all friendlies, and then he wasn't selected for the last 4 matches. So not really sure about him. Can you tell us a little?
Yeah, not much information for him. He's a similar age to Bensabani, bit younger, 24 years old. He's only been with the team since 2021, as you alluded to, and currently plays in Portugal, but not with the top club there.
Right. Okay, and we'll move on quickly to Elias Chappie. So he actually returned after a 15-month absence and came to play in the Arab Cup in November. So again, I don't know if the Arab Cup was kind of a B team there, but he did make an appearance there.
Yeah, kind of interesting. He had his first appearance in 2018, but only has 2 caps, so not a player that's been used frequently. But you mentioned that 15-month absence there as well. So not somebody who's been a regular part of the setup by any means.
Yeah, how many left backs do you think we can really expect? 2 or 3?
I think 2, unless they have kind of a fullback or even one of a center back that's a bit more versatile and can perhaps play out wide. I'm not sure what system they use, but I think kind of 2 is generally to be expected. I think with a 23-man team, you're allowed 3 goalies and then 2 players per position. So 2 would be the standard, but again, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on versatility.
Right. Well, we'll find out from Kiera soon enough. The last name I'll just mention, really, the name is Mohammed Fares, and he played 2 of their 11 games in 2021, but he was out with 2 separate injuries for 4 of those games, including the last 2, and then for 7 games he simply wasn't selected. But he was on the B team in 2019, so he has played a tournament. Anything more to say, or should we turn to the expert to find out?
Let's find out who made it.
All right.
Okay. Well, there are indeed 2 left backs, and that is Rami Bensabani and Elias Chappie.
Okay, so one of those 2 possible players there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were pretty close on that one. Let's move over to the right back, and there's again 4 players to consider here, and the first one is actually hasn't been in a tournament, Hussein Benayada, but we have him as a likely. He played 4 games, including the last 3 of their 11 games in 2021. So he was on the bench for 4 and then not selected for 4. But he seemed to be actually the most used right back. So maybe, as you said, somebody from another position was covering in some of the other games.
Yeah, just 7 caps for him, but kind of like you said, more at the end of 2021. So somebody who kind of seems to be in that position now. He's another one of their African-based players playing in Tunisia at Etoile du Sahel.
Yeah, it doesn't actually seem a very strong candidate here. But lower on the list is Reda Haleemia, and we just have him as a possibility. He played only the second last of their 11 games in 2021 and was on the bench for 3 games, but not selected for 6 of them.
Yeah, and he plays in Europe with Beerschot in Belgium, where he's been since 2019.
Okay, a bit of a more experienced player is Maddie Zephane, and he played 4 of their 11 games in 2021 and was on the bench for 5 of those. But he was not selected for the last 2, which is why I just have him as a possibility. But it, of course, would depend on the reason that he wasn't selected. But he is quite experienced.
Yeah, 29 years old. He has 19 caps to his name. And he spent most of his career in Europe with Lyon and Rennes in France. And currently he plays with Krylia Sovetov Samara in Russia. Yeah,
so he was actually in the 2015 and the 2019 African Cups, but he didn't see any action in the first and was just on the B team in the second, and he didn't even make the squad in 2017. So a bit of a bit player there, although recently he seems to be playing a bit more. Okay, and then in the not likely category, we have Yusuf Atal. Despite being a starter in 2019, he only played 4 of their 11 games and was injured 3 separate times for 6 of the games, including the last 2. So I guess if he's recovered, there would be a higher possibility. I don't know what the state of his injury is, though.
Yeah, he's been with the national team since 2017 and has 22 caps, so has been used fairly regularly since making his debut, I think you could say. But yeah, injury problems have affected him recently. He is with Nice in France, having moved there from an Algerian club in 2018.
Right. So if he's not on the squad, I would say it's probably down to injury. But let's turn to Kiera and find out.
Yeah. So there are actually 3 right backs on the team, 3 of the 4. So Hussein Benayada is indeed on the team, as is Reda Haleemia. And the third, he must be recovered enough from injury because it is indeed Yusuf Atal.
Ooh, there we go. Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see who the starter is there. But we move on to midfielders. Now, as we always say, it's a little bit difficult to separate defensive and central midfielders. They tend to roam around a lot, but we'll start with a player who's labeled as a defensive midfielder, Adeline Guediora.
Yeah, he'll be a name familiar to those who followed English football. He spent a lot of time in England with various clubs, Crystal Palace, Watford, actually 2 spells, Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest, and Sheffield United, where he is currently and has been since earlier in 2021. So he's quite an experienced player for them. He has 61 caps to his name, mostly a defensive midfielder, but he's chipped in with a couple of goals as well. And he's been with the team since 2010, so quite some time now.
Yeah, he subbed into the 2010 World Cup, and in the tournaments after that, he was a starter, except 2014 and 2015. He looked like he took a bit of a hiatus from the team because he wasn't in either of those tournaments. But he was a starter in 2019, and that's why we have him as a likely player. He played 3 of their games in 2021. Oh, but he was injured for the last 4. So he actually is an injury risk here, and I guess we'll find out. I'm sure if he's recovered, he's a likely candidate, but the injury may have an effect there.
Yeah, and he was named to the team of the tournament in the African Cup 2019. So I think we'd expect to see him, other than if he's not recovered from his injury.
Yeah, if he's not on the team, then we can assume that it's the injury. The other defensive midfielder we have, but he's rated as a kind of possible but not likely, is Sophine Fegoli. So we won't spend a lot of time, just maybe a couple of points there, Connor.
Yeah, he's been with the team since 2016, but only has 4 caps for them. So not a lot of appearances since making his debut.
Yeah, and he actually returned after a 2-year absence to play in the Arab Cup. So I'm not sure that was the A team. Should we do central midfielders and then check, or should we check to see if let's check to see if either of these guys made it.
Okay.
Over to
one of them did. Yeah, one of them did make it, but it's not Guadiara. It is, in fact, Sophine Fegoli.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he made a good impression in the Arab Cup.
Yeah, possible. But how big of a loss do you think that is for Algeria? Not have a.
He is 36. He is 36 years old. I always found him a bit of a brute, I gotta say. You watched him in the English league. What did you make of him?
He's a tough tackling midfielder for sure. He's kind of someone you notice. He does get a few cards, but he's has a lot of staying power in England, so he is definitely a good player.
Yeah, and as you say, he was named to the team of the tournament. So maybe even at his age, injury is the reason, but it could be age there. Let's move on to the central midfield, though, and begin with a fairly big name, Ishmael Benasser, who we have as a definite. He played 7 of their 11 games, including the last 6, and he was injured for 3 of those, but that was earlier in the year. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he is one of the bigger names for Algeria. He's just 24 years old, but he's well established in the AC Milan team in Italy. He's played with AC Milan since 2019 and was with Empoli, another smaller club prior to that. So since making his debut in 2016, he has 32 caps and 2 goals. Definitely more of a central and perhaps defensive midfielder. A big player for both club and country.
Yeah, not initially, though, because he was on the roster but saw no action in 2017. So he seemed to come on pretty fast. And he did start all the games except the B-team game in 2019. And in fact, he won the Golden Ball Award for Best Player of the tournament. Always that kind of vague praise, pulling the strings in the midfield, they said.
Yeah, a little vague perhaps, but somebody who can get play started, breaks up plays, and does often win that midfield battle. So a player you definitely want to have in your team.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to another one we've coded as definite. Even though he's never played in a tournament, Rami Zeruki.
Yeah, he currently plays for Twente in the Netherlands. He made his appearance just this year, or last year, I guess, in 2021, but has 9 caps, so pretty regular player for them in 2021.
Yeah, and that's why we've coded him as a definite, because he played 9 of their 11 games, and so he seems to be fairly stuck in. Moving down to the likely is Haris Belkebla. Sorry.
Yep. He has 9 caps. He's been with the team since 2019. And he plays for Stade Brest in France. So another player that's kind of been around the squad. But yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how he's done in 2021.
Well, I'll tell you how he did in 2019. During the African Cup, he got into trouble because he showed his bum on a video or something like that, and I remember that they were all up in arms about him. So he was actually dismissed from the squad. But he seems to have come back because he's played 5 of their 11 games in 2021 and was on the bench for the other 6. So they seem to have forgiven him for showing his bare bum on a video.
Hopefully he can make a better impression at this tournament.
Right. Okay. Well, we have one at the possible level called Adem Zorgain.
Like Belkebla, he made his debut in 2019. He's quite young, just 21 years old, but already has 6 caps. He plays currently with Charleroi in Belgium.
Okay. And then we have, he's played 4 of their 11 games and was on the bench for 4. So he's a possibility, but not a regular starter, I guess. And finally, we have Mehdi Abed, and he's coded as a possible but not likely. So we won't spend too much time, but maybe you can just mention a couple of details.
Yeah, he has 19 caps to his name, and currently he plays for Al Nassr in the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, he just came on as a sub in 2017 and 2019, and he played 3 of their 11 games and was on the bench for 1 more. So it doesn't seem a regular on the team. Okay, Kiera, enlighten us.
Of the 5 there, 4 are on the team and pretty much as expected. So Ishmael Benasser, Rami Zeruki, Haris Belkebla, and Adem Zorgain are the 4.
Okay.
So as you predicted.
Yeah.
I should mention that for the African Cup, each team is allowed 28 players. I had previously said 23, which is standard for most international tournaments. But due to possible COVID cases, each team is allowed 5 additional players. So, there'll be a couple players who probably don't see a lot of action, but are included in that 28-man squad.
Right, and there's also 5 substitutions because I think the African Federation follows the 5. I think they have to 5 sub rules. So okay, well, left midfield. We don't have anyone coded as a left midfielder. We do have a few left wingers who will probably fill in for the role. But on the right midfielder, we have the well-known Sophine Fegoli.
Yes, Sophine Fegoli. He's been with the team since 2012 and has 73 caps and 19 goals, so quite a good return. He plays with Galatasaray in Turkey and has since 2017. But he's also played in a couple other leagues. He played with West Ham in England and Valencia in Spain. He spent 6 years with Valencia.
Yeah, and he's been a starter ever since the 2013 World Cup. African Cup, and he played in. I don't see anything for the World Cup 2018 here, actually. So maybe he missed it, and he also missed the 2017 African Cup. But recently, he's played 8 of their 11 games, so we had him coded as definite. Okay, and then one other player in this position, Hikam Budawi.
Right, so Budawi, less experienced than Fegoli, 10 caps to his name, but a younger player, 22 years of old. And he plays in Nice in France, as we saw one other player do as well. And he's been with the team since 2018.
Right, he was on the B team just for the B team game in 2019, but otherwise was just a substitute. Now, we would normally consider him kind of possible because he played 4 of their 11 games in 2021, but he also missed 4 games due to 2 separate injuries, including a back injury for the last 2 games. So for me, that puts him as almost unlikely because the back injury seems to need a bit of recovery time. But Chiara, what have we here?
Your definite is indeed definite. So it is Sophine Fegoli.
All right. And no Budawi?
Nope.
All right. So that may be because of injury. Okay, moving over to the left wing, we have a couple of definites and then one possible. Coded as definite is Yusuf Bali. He's a familiar name to me, Connor.
Yeah, he's been with Algeria since 2015 and has 29 caps and 6 goals. And he also started the majority of their games in the 2019 African Cup. He plays with Qatar SC, so he's a teammate of defender Jamel Ben Lamri.
Yeah, right. Maybe then not as familiar as I thought, because he did just come in for the 2019 African Cup. But we have him as a definite because he played all 11 of their games in 2021 and scored 2 of their 19 goals on top of it. So I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. Also definite, we coded as definite, is Syed Benrama.
Yeah,
go ahead.
A familiar player to fans of the Premier League. He's a very regular starter with West Ham United. He moved there in 2020 on loan initially, having spent a couple years at Brentford in the Championship, part of a very successful Brentford team, I should add.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think he put in a great cross on the weekend for Miguel Antonio. Was that the guy?
Absolutely, it was.
Oh, super. Okay, so we have him as a definite because he played 8 of their 11 games and was on the bench for 2 others. So a consistent presence there. But a little we have as possible, a little less likely then, is Rasheed Gazelle. We have him as possible because he played 3 of their 11 games and was not selected for 5 of the others, including the last 4. So even though he got 1 of their goals in qualifying, missing the last 4 games is maybe a sign that he's out of favor.
Well, and there's stiff competition for that position, so we may find it hard to break in with the players above him.
Right. Yeah, so actually he was selected in 2017, but not 2019. So, as you say, kind of maybe we should move him down to possible, but unlikely there. Well, we'll find out right away. Chiara?
Well, your 2 definites are the 2 who have been selected. So Yusuf Bali and Syed Benrama are the 2 left wingers on the team.
All right. Well, tough competition, as you said, Connor. We move over to the right wing for probably their best known player in current times, Riyad Mahrez.
Yeah, current captain as well. Since making his debut in 2014, he has 70 caps and 26 goals to his name. So he's a 30-year-old. Of course, really broke out with Leicester City during their unlikely championship or title-winning team in 2015-16, where he was really a star. That earned him a move to Manchester City, where he's been since 2018.
Yeah, that's right. And he was on the World Cup 2014 team for his first tournament, and he started game 1 interestingly, but he was subbed out at 71 minutes and didn't appear after that for any of the 4 games after that. But of course he grew in reputation. I wasn't aware that he missed. Oh, I guess Algeria, did they make the 2018 World Cup?
They were there in 2014.
Right. Maybe that's why I've been confused a couple of times, because I was looking for 2018, but then, of course, they didn't make it. Anyway, captain of the team, he played 9 of their 11 games in 2021. So the only thing I can see preventing him would maybe be some of the clubs seem to be trying to dissuade players from going. Do you have any comments on that, Connor?
There is some of that. I would say it's probably the exception and not the rule. I mean, obviously clubs don't want to lose players, but players want to represent their country, and I think they're kind of obliged under FIFA rules to release players. So certain I'm sure that Riyad Mahrez will be there.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and then the last player, the other player we'll look there in competition with Mahrez, but maybe on the bench as a backup, it's Zinedine Ferhat. But we have him as possible, but not likely, because he only played 2 of their 11 games in 2021 and wasn't selected for the other 9, including the last 7. So not much of a chance there. Okay, I think maybe we'll move to Chiara on that one.
Mm-hmm. So there is just one right winger, and so unsurprisingly, it is Riyad Mahrez.
Right. I'm glad that these guys are going to the cup. A lot of club fans will be unhappy about it, but I'm an international soccer fan. Okay. Let's go to attacking midfielders.
Just before we do that, Kevin, were there any midfielders perhaps that we haven't mentioned that worked their way into the team?
No, I'm going to talk about that a bit at the end, Connor. If you remember Chile in around 2015 or 2016, this is what Algeria reminds me of. Like, they have basically a starting 11 that seem to be starting all the time. And compared to other teams, they don't seem to be kind of bringing in or trying out a lot of players at all. You know, goalies was an example. We just saw the 3 goalies. That means nobody else has played in goal or been on the bench over the last year. You know, right. So it's a bit of a surprise how few players there are to consider here.
Sure. Well, there may be some surprises, but we'll deal with that at the end.
Yeah. Okay, so Zinedine Ferhat, let's just keep him as a name here because he's possible but not likely. And if he's selected, we'll give a few more details. Moving on to attacking midfielders. We only have a couple of possible ones on the list here. First one is Farid Boulea.
Yeah, he's plays with Metz in France since 2018. He's 28 years old, but just 4 caps to his name. So, I mean, his debut was only in 2020, but not somebody who's seen a lot of pitch time.
Right, and he played 3 of their, actually just the first 3 of their 11 games in 2021, and then he was injured for 2 and on the bench for 4, including the last 2. So doesn't seem to be a strong candidate. This guy should be a lot higher up, Yassine Brahimi. However, I'll tell you, he was off the team for 13 months until he returned to the Arab Cup in December. So basically, he didn't play any games in 2021 other than the Arab Cup. But he's a big name, Connor.
Yeah, a big name, a player with Champions League experience with Porto in Portugal. He was with them from 2014 to 19, but has since moved to Al Rayyan in Qatar. But he has 11 goals and 57 caps for the national team. So, definitely a big player.
Yeah, he looks like he's kind of been on his way out because he was just a sub in 2019, but was a starter in tournaments before that. Personally, I hope to see him because I liked him.
Yeah, he's 31 years old, so certainly not aging out of the squad yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, the last candidate is possible but not likely, so we'll just mention him by name, and that's Maddie Zephane. And let's go straight to Chiara to see how we did.
So there are 2 out of the 3 that are on the team.
Oh,
So
really?
Farid Boulea did make the squad. And Kevin, you'll be happy because Yassine Brahimi is also on the team.
Woohoo! Yeah, that's good. Okay, secondary strikers, we actually don't have any. And this guy I'm about to introduce was the big name in 2019, Badar Buneja. He played all 11 games, so there is absolutely no doubt that he's going to be on the team.
Yeah, a big player for them. 24 goals and 50 caps, so an astonishing goal ratio. Yeah, he plays with Al Sadd in Qatar, but yeah, a big player for them. Fairly regular, 30 years old, and I agree. I think there's no way that he won't be on the team.
Yeah, he's very talented and kind of always in the thick of it. I gotta say, I found him a little bit irritating in the last African Cup, especially when he missed a penalty. He seemed to, well, he was very dramatic, but to me, he was a bit over dramatic. But I should maybe be a bit more patient. I'd much prefer, though, this player, Islam Slimani. He also played all 11 of their games in 2021 and scored 2 of their goals. So we've listed him as a definite also.
Yeah, he has 39 goals and 80 caps. So like Bunajad, almost a goal every 2 games. He's been with the team since 2012 and a pretty big player with them. He's currently with Lyon in France. He spent 5 seasons at Leicester City. But he had a couple loan spells during that time after previously playing with Sporting Lisbon. I feel we never really saw the best of him in a Leicester shirt, and I think he struggled to break into the team and, of course, was loaned. But he's a player I quite like and would really like to see him do well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure I'm remembering this correctly, but I think he didn't play enough. He was just short of playing enough games in that title-winning season to receive a medal, but I might be mixing him up with someone else.
Yeah, he was when Leicester purchased him from Sporting in 2016. He was a club record for Leicester, 28 million. So they expected big things of him, but unfortunately didn't really materialize.
Yeah, but as you say, that goal ratio is almost 50%. That's amazing. Well, he was only on the B team, surprisingly, in 2019. But he seems to have worked his way back into a starter, as we said, starting all of their 11 games. And I'll just go back to Buneja there. I forgot to mention he scored 4 of their 19 goals in qualifying, so was their highest scorer. So I think I'm going to bet my house on those 2 guys being on the team. But I wouldn't be so sure about Mohammed Amoura here. We have him just as a possible.
Yeah, and that's partly because he got his first cap for the team in October. And he played, just 2 games for them. So a young player, 21 years old, but not really established on the team yet.
Yeah. Maybe a bit more possible is this Adam Unas.
Yeah, he plays for Napoli in Italy, so quite a big club. Since making his debut in 2017, he has 15 caps and 4 goals. He played 4 of their 11 games in 2021, but he missed 5 of those with injuries. So a bit unlucky, but if he is healthy, we expect it's likely that he'll be part of the team.
Yeah, actually, we have him as possible, but we'll see. I mean, I think they use more. Here's a good question for you, Connor. How many forwards do you bring to a tournament?
I think depending on the system, I think with a 28-man squad, you're probably bringing 5.
Yeah, I would say so too, because they're subbed in quite a bit. And actually, that's a good lead in to this guy, Andy Delort. I actually liked him in 2019. He did well in game 3, the B team game. And as we've just talked about, he subbed into a lot of the games. Yeah, he created some good chances, but he's only played one of their 11 games in 2021 and was on the bench for one. So I have him as possible, but not likely. Yeah,
All
I
right.
guess we won't get into a big bio. He's played for a whole lot of teams here. We'll maybe say more about him if it turns out he's selected. And Hilal Sudani, I have him as possible, but not likely because he only played the first of their games in 2021 and was on the bench for the second, but then not selected. After that, he also didn't play in the 2019 African Cup, but he is a fairly big name. Do you want to maybe say a little about him, Connor?
Yeah, big name and a prolific scorer. He's a little bit older now, 34, so perhaps may not be in the squad partly because of that. But he's got 24 goals across 54 caps. So that's now the third striker we've seen with almost basically a goal every other game. So a really good goal scoring record. He's played in Saudi Arabia since 2021.
Right. Yeah. So a bit maybe 34 years old, a bit maybe old for the team. I'll just mention the last two as names: Usama Darfalu and Kareem Aribi. We have both of them as seem to be off the squad. Darfalu played only the first of their 11 games in 2021 and then disappeared. And Aribi last appeared in November 2020, so not likely to make the team. Any comments before Kiera tells us who came?
No, I'm curious to know which forwards made it.
Well, with there only being 4 spots left, with all the names we've gone through, there are only 4 forwards.
Okay, wow, that's a surprise.
That they've brought. So I'm
just going to highlight this guy right now.
Yeah. He is absolutely, Buneja is on the team, and you can keep your house. So is Islam Slimani.
Oh, woohoo.
Yeah, Bunajad and Slimani, no real surprise there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The other two, Mohammed Amora.
Oh, okay.
Is the third. And fourth is Adam Unas.
Okay, so the main candidates made the squad there.
Mm-hmm. And that should be 28 names. So there are no other surprises, no other names coming out of the blue other than the 2 that we talked about right at the beginning.
Right. And did they put out a preliminary squad, or did they go directly to a final squad?
Directly to this final squad.
Okay, I think more and more teams are doing that. I kind of like when they put out a preliminary squad, but
perhaps a contributing factor is a lot of players have just been released from their clubs. I think in a World Cup, you might bring say 40 players, get the team together, and then choose from there. I don't think the teams have as much of a chance to get together and practice and for the manager to have a look at a lot of different players. So that could be a reason why they just went to a final squad as well.
Yeah, that's a good point and actually leads nicely into our short discussion here. And I think I made my main point earlier that compared to a lot of other teams, there really aren't that many names that we dealt with here. And as I said, they're a bit like Chile, where they seem quite decided and quite happy with their team. It's all functioning well. It looks like a team that'll do well in the Cup, having played together for a long time.
Yeah, I think, when you have a winning formula, as Algeria have found, it's kind of best to stick with that. They've got a manager who's been there for a few years, so he's been able to kind of mold the team a little bit in his image, and obviously find a formula that's worked for them. So I think it's no huge surprise as the defending champions that we're seeing a lot of names that we saw in the 2019 African Cup, but also a lot of players who have proven their experience with Algeria before.
Right. So very few surprises here. And do you have anything to you want to say, Kiera? Any observations? Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Okay,
No,
well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the things you've said have been, same sort of thoughts.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, we're just doing this this player podcast as a bit of an experiment to kind of work out our format and take a look at the players. And so we're not sure. We may do a couple of other podcasts on players, but probably not all 24 teams. And do you want to take us out, Connor, with a bit of information to finish?
Yeah, you can find all our other podcasts on our website, soccerfiles.captivate.fm. You can also search Soccer Files Canada, and that will lead you to our website as well. And it's Soccer Files with a PH. And of course, we have or will post a team-by-team preview for each of the 24 teams in this tournament. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, we'd like to hear from you. You can email us at soccerfiles@gmail.com. Right,
and just to clarify that, I'm not sure I heard you right, but not a team-by-team podcast, but like the 6 groups, right?
Right, covering all teams, but having a group-by-group look, I should say.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, thanks very much, you guys. Good to talk to you about this.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
You as well.
Bye-bye.